Do you ever feel that, like, just for instance here,
Go for
feel
it.
like it's not bumped it enough? Do you ever bump it under the heat?
So I love this question. It depends on your product that you're using. With Masters of Balayage, we actually choose not to use heat. It's a personal choice. Occasionally, maybe diffuse. Yeah, you can see it's just not lifted yet, but we're almost like
That
at
one's a lot better than that. Yeah.
Put some lightener back on it. We definitely choose to avoid using heat at all possible. If you're doing a color correction, you gotta expedite that accordingly, but we definitely try to not use heat. This, honestly, by the time I'm done doing this half of her head, this half is gonna be done. And I'm only using 10 volume. Because why? Her root area. And this lightener's freaking awesome. But it really does create a nice lift there. Okay, so I'm gonna go in nice and tight. As you can see, there's a darker area here, so I'm going to blend it up. Feather, 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 feather. It actually really does smell like blueberries.
It does.
It's kind of funny. You guys are welcome to sniff it. Proper sectioning, proper application obviously plays a toll in any sort of lifting and depositing system. So making sure that when you are taking your sections, especially with a lightener, our lightener, it's made for both balayage. You can do it with repaint. You just want to make sure that you seal it in with like saran wrap or something. Does anybody use saran wrap for balayage? It's fun. It's so much fun. I love it. So as you can see, I'm getting pretty vertical. As I'm going through, I'm still taking a nice baby light, but I'm pretty much at around where I would call her face frame, because this is where her baby hairs should start. Okay? This is actually a little bit thick. This is a perfect example of a little bit too thick, so I'm just gonna take some hair out here and side it out. We don't want any buckling or anything like that. Taking my lightener, I'm gonna feather it in. So I'm gonna continue on here. I'm gonna just follow in here, pretty much vertical the rest of the way forward, grabbing all of her little baby hairs. So one of my favorite things about doing this full coverage blonding placement is when I get to that front part of her hairline, I'm actually gonna touch all of these hairs. Yes, they're very, very fine. Everybody's hair is very, very fine, but sometimes I'll just pull those a little bit sooner if necessary, like you would do with traditional foil work as well. So when I take my section, you'll notice it's pretty sparse over there, and that's okay. I'll just kind of like grab a few as I go closer to her hairline, because I don't want it to be fully covered right there. So I'm gonna go in, taking that next section, and I'm gonna be making these ones as I get about 1 to 2 fingers away from her hairline, almost like a slice, make it nice and bold. But where is this hair gonna fall? Literally right here. So it's gonna look bold because of the placement. So as we were in the back, we were pretty much diagonal with the shape of her head, taking high sections, and then we basically moved all the way forward, taking pretty vertical lines around the shape of her head. But this makes it really easy to get full coverage and keeping it bold and blonde and blended. And then again, I'm sure you guys have seen those techniques where you can do like double mohawks to get more coverage rather than just doing your traditional mohawk placement, stuff like that. This is definitely, it's going to be a double mohawk, so she's going to get lots of coverage in a quick amount of time.
Do you use papers when you do a full highlight on her?
Yeah. So I would do the same thing in the back. So I'd separate it into 2 sections in the back, and then I would literally on each side start here and work my way like this and forward. If their head shape in the back is a little bit wider, I'll bricklay as I'm going, and then keep going down until I hit the hairline with the papers. I've done the placement also with foil work too. It's still really nice. It's, again, with using papers, there's not one right or wrong way of doing foil work in my opinion. I do traditional foil placement all the time. Like, it's very, very common, but for somebody like Chelsea who wants to be really nice and blonde and we want to get maximum lift with the hopes of not having to, fully tone her, this is a really good placement to use. And you'll see when she's lifting, it's literally going to be the most beautiful pearly blonde. It's amazing. That's why I really, really wanted you guys to see what the true power of this can do. Now you got a corrective one, and then your natural lift one. All right, so I'm going to show you guys this. So as you can see, all of her hair is touched. It just makes it so much easier than sticking a foil there or anything like that. If you have a client that they are not comfortable with you touching them, or you're not, or if they have like serious postpartum hair loss like me, this is literally from me just having a baby. It happens to me every time. 3rd kid, whew, really got me good. Got lots of weave in here. But you can always leave out those little baby hairs. Yeah. okay, you have your section. See how it's still going along the shape of her head? It's because I just kind of followed what her hair was doing, okay? Okay, so here, I'm gonna glide like I did. I'm gonna get more like this, going forward, boom, hairline. Everybody got it? So this part's actually pretty cool. Oh, well, it's just gonna flop in her face. Hold on, Chelsea. Okay, so when I pull it down, I'll take my sections, like just a couple at a time, and I'll make sure that they tuck because you don't want any of them to fall or anything like that. Just like your foil work, if you're gonna move around, you wanna make sure they stay nice and tight. Are you okay?
Just making sure to get
Oh, wait a second. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going here, bringing it down. And as you can see, it literally glides along the shape of her head. If you don't tuck these though, because it's going around the shape of her head, and that stays out, you're gonna get a nice little spot there. Get a tuck, and then as you can see how it's getting more pie as I go back here again, where I started at the beginning. And I actually want to just like check this first one. Oh, it's not done yet, it's close though. But like the natural heat that's coming from her head will incubate this, or I'll place a towel on it if I find necessary. But you guys see that placement? How everything is kind of like overlapping each other on its way down. Cool? Maintaining depth, keeping brightness in the front. Clearly, you can see where there was some previous lightened areas because that's lighter. So when I'm deciding, especially when I'm working with previous color, I'm not actually worried about this. I'm focusing on the lighter pieces. Why? Freakage. I mean, let's be real. Even if the client comes in and they're like, "Oh, my dream hair is white," you're like, so even though I open this foil and I still see that this isn't quite ready, I would again had a consultation with her. Hey, you have previous color, whatever. Or you have another option, which I am going to do is I'm just going to reapply a little bit more right there just to kind of help it. And especially since it's something so basic, something like that. But this piece, to me, is almost done. And how you know with the Luna Lightener is wiping it away. So I'd say she's at about level 7 right there. And it's far more toned out than what your normal level 7 would be, right? And what I love about the Luna Lightener is it's giving me that cleaner canvas, but it kind of tricks your mind if you're not used to seeing a lift and deposit. Because you're like, okay, if you're depositing at a level 7 purple, wouldn't it be like more reddish? You know what I mean? Like give that weird tone. It really just is kind of like breaking down as it's going. So this is pretty good to me. It looks kind of like a cooler beige. I'm gonna let it process a little bit and I'm gonna hit her darker spots real quick. You guys are welcome to keep watching that too.
First starts off green.
Oh yeah, it's so cool.
Here, you can come over here. So this is 20. When you mix it, it starts to turn to that violet.
Hey, hey, hey.
So you can use Luna with other developer, like companies, whatever, but you're not going to get the same like toning aspect. It all happens with
Does it still get the same lifting though?
You will get a good lift, like 7 levels, but it's not going to be the same raw lift of like pre-toned. It kind of lifts to like a really pretty beigey color.
Okay.
It's not going to turn to like that. I mean, well, on Chelsea, it gets pretty cool tone because she's so light naturally, but on like a darker canvas, you're going to get a more neutral blonde lift at the end. You're not going to get a full-blown like icy silver highlight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it kind of helps a lot of, it does like a lot of the grunt work for you. So that way, if I wanted to do a cool tone money piece on her, most of it's already kind of like toned out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's so cool.
You just mix it based on consistency.
It's a 1-to-2 ratio.
Is it?
Yeah. Like once you get used to it though, you know how when you know you're lighting it,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
"Doop, doop, doop." You know what to do. But yeah, it is 1-to-2, and then you know depending on your bond builder, if it adjusts your consistency, you can add a little bit more if you so desire. But and then with this stuff, say you just were like, you know, I don't want to have the toning agent, but the power of this lightener is still so amazing. You could use a different developer if you so decided to not use the toning developer, because the toning agent is again in the developer.
When you said 7 levels of lift, that's totally like weight with, you know, like 20 volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. And deposit. That's
You'll see.
yeah. I'll have to try it now.
You're gonna want to try it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can see the consistency on it too, it's like it's sticking right to these papers nicely. Like the consistency is really, really good. Like it's not gonna, it doesn't swell like at all actually, and just gives you, it does give you that perfect lift. Again, what we have found is you need to make sure that you're saturating. Like a lot of times, you know, you're kind of in a rush. With this specific product, if you're not saturating, it really doesn't give you that benefit that you're looking for. You will
I think
feel
that's,
like,
truly that's almost with any. And
Oh,
it
heck
is,
yeah.
it is about saturation.
oh yeah, I love to use it with foils, papers, free paint. I love to tip out people's ends with balayage. Oh my god. So this is actually, I'll probably say it again, balayage. Do you do a lot of that? Just bumping up those ends enough with the balayage, it's going to pre-tone it for you too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could totally do a balayage on her if I wanted to or we had time to, and it would just like gently tone and bump out those ends without feeling like you have to. When you're mixing it, again, like any lightener, you want to mix it thoroughly. Personally, I like to mix it with a spatula or my brush rather than with a whisk. And I like the consistency because, you know, when you're whisking something, it's fluffing it just as a natural thing. You can use both. You can use a whisk, you can. But I would prefer to use a spatula or even my brush. And then adding your bond builder after it's mixed. That way you can find the consistency that you want and then adding in whatever you're looking for after.
I've just kind of reapplied on some of these spots, but she has pretty much like a consistent band through all the foils that I'm
You just kind of like scrape away the lightener, and it still is training your eye. So like looking at this blonde, it kind of looks almost like blue because the lightener around it. But if you need to, you can even kind of like take a piece out, and you can see that she's at like a level. She really is at a level 9 around her hairline. Mm-hmm. So we're just gonna smush that back down. After about another smush it.
So in our demo classes, you know, we try to just simplify as much as we can, and you know, in our time, let them cook. And while they're cooking, you know, we just kind of like chit chat, or you take a break or whatever, and come back and check out what the model looks like.
So because she's so light, you don't want to do a root touch on her?
On her?
Yeah.
I just won't need to. It's gonna look like it though. It's gonna look like I retapped her, just based off of the placement. But if she was a pretty darker root, I actually wouldn't do this technique on her. This is like your level 7 or higher girls. That's a personal opinion. I'm sure people have done it with darker hair and it came out beautiful, but they probably had to root shadow it. But at that point, if I'm gonna root shadow, I just do foil work. You know what I mean? Make it faster.